She brought her ailing albino dragon mother to a human mechanic. The result will melt your heart. The workshop smelled of oil, ozone, and something the Draconi girl couldn't quite identify. Cinnamon, perhaps? Kessa's scales rippled with anxiety as she guided her mother through the narrow doorway, the ancient dragon's pearl-white wings folding tight against her trembling body. "Please," Kessa whispered to the human bent over a disassembled plasma drive. "Please, you have to help her." Marcus Chen looked up from his work, wiping grease-stained hands on his coveralls. His eyes widened at the sight before him. A young Draconi warrior, barely past her first century, supporting what could only be described as living legend. An albino dragon, one of the eldest, her scales dulled with age and pain. "Holy," Marcus breathed, setting down his tools. "Ma'am, I'm a mechanic. I work on ships, not—" "You work on life support systems," Kessa interrupted, her voice cracking. The biomechanical implants keeping her heart beating are failing. Every specialist from here to the galactic core said it's impossible. The technology is too old, too integrated, but I heard humans can fix anything. Marcus studied the old dragon's chest, where ancient cybernetics pulsed with irregular light beneath translucent scales. The technology was indeed ancient. First-wave colonization era, at least 3,000 years old. Before his great-great-grandparents had even left Earth. "Why me?" he asked softly. "Because humans still use duct tape," the old dragon rasped, her voice like wind through crystals. "Because you jury-rig solutions from impossible odds. Because when the Zephreni said their quantum computers couldn't be repaired, a human fixed one with a paperclip and chewing gum." Marcus couldn't help but smile. That story had become legend across a dozen systems. "Okay," he said, pulling up a diagnostic scanner. "Let's see what we're working with." The next 6 hours blurred together. Marcus had worked on everything from antique Earth shuttles to cutting-edge Vrellan warships. But this was different. The biomechanical implants weren't just technology. They were part of her, grown into her very being over millennia. Each component was unique, handcrafted, irreplaceable. "The central regulator is cracked," Marcus muttered, magnifying the scan. "And this coupling here? It's not just worn, it's crystallized. Any attempt to remove it could shatter the whole array." "So she dies," Kessa said flatly, her claws digging into her palms. "I didn't say that." Marcus disappeared into his supply room, emerging with an armful of seemingly random items. Polymer resin from a 3D printer, synthetic spider silk cables, a military-grade nano-welder, and, Kessa blinked, a child's toy gyroscope. "What are you—" "Trust me," Marcus said, already heating the polymer. "Your mother was right about one thing. We humans were really good at making impossible things work." He worked with a focus Kessa had never seen in any being. His hands moved with surgical precision, but his approach was anything but conventional. He used the gyroscope's stabilization mechanism to create a makeshift regulator. The spider silk cables, stronger than anything in nature, replaced the crystallized couplings. The polymer resin, carefully calibrated, sealed microfractures that no Draconi surgeon would have dared touch. "The problem," Marcus explained as he worked, "is that everyone thinks about these implants as technology. But they're not anymore. They're part of her biology. So we don't replace, we heal. We adapt." Kessa watched, transfixed, as her mother's breathing slowly steadied. The irregular pulse of the cybernetics began to sink, finding rhythm again. "There," Marcus said, finally stepping back. "The gyroscope will last maybe 5 years before needing replacement. But it's modular, any decent mechanic can swap it out. I've programmed the specifications into your datapad." The old dragon opened her eyes, pure gold, unmarred by age, and took her first full breath in months. Her scales began to shimmer, that pearlescent glow returning like dawn breaking. "How much do we owe you?" Kessa asked, reaching for her credit chip. Marcus waved her off. "Buy me dinner sometime. I want to hear her stories. Someone who's lived 3,000 years? That's worth more than any payment." Kessa stared at him. In galactic society, medical services for an eldest would bankrupt families. Wars had been fought over lesser things. "Why?" "Because that's what we do," Marcus said simply, already cleaning his tools. "My grandmother used to say, we fix things not because we'll get paid, but because they're broken. Besides, preserving history? That's priceless." The old dragon laughed, a sound like silver bells. "The other races fear you humans, you know. Your violence, your unpredictability, your refusal to accept limitations." "Yeah, I've heard that," Marcus replied, grinning. "They're fools. She stretched her wings, testing them, light catching on scales that suddenly seemed less fragile. They should fear your compassion, your stubborn insistence that nothing is truly unfixable, your habit of seeing people, not problems. She lowered her massive head until her golden eyes met Marcus's brown ones. You didn't see an impossible repair. You saw someone's mother who needed help. Marcus shrugged, suddenly embarrassed. Like I said, that's just what we do. As Kessa guided her mother out into the station's artificial sunset, she looked back. The human mechanic was already bent over his next project, humming some Earth tune. He'd saved one of the eldest, performed what the entire galactic community called impossible, and considered it just another day's work. She finally understood why humans had become so vital to the galaxy. Not because of their warships or their technology or their fierce determination, but because when everyone else saw impossible, they saw possibility. When others saw limits, they saw challenges. And when the universe said no, humans simply asked, why not? Her mother was right. That was terrifying and absolutely beautiful.